Hello, I'm Jay, and today we're going to be building rock sliders. These are not side steps. There's a clear distinction between a rock slider and a side step. A rock slider is designed to kind of protect the underside of a vehicle from obstacles coming up underneath the vehicle like that, and to also push the truck around things. So you can like slide this up on a tree or a rock or something like that, and it'll keep it away from the body of the truck. A side step's really not designed to have the weight of the entire vehicle bearing down on this, whereas this thing is. This is going to be kind of a long video, so let's get right into the build. All right, so we're going to start the rock slider build at the frame of the truck here. So we're right behind the front tire, and I'm just drawing right on the frame of the truck with the paint marker. It's going to get covered up by the frame plates anyways, so it's not really going to matter. We're not going to be able to see them after they're done. There are 3 frame plates in total, as you can see here. And the next step is to just make some paper templates. You can see they wrap around underneath the frame, and there's the 2 rear ones. So there is going to be a rectangular one on the underside here, and I don't make a template for that because it's just a rectangle and it's these dimensions here. And then we'll transfer these paper templates over to 3/16 steel. The rectangular one is right here. Obviously no template for that. And then let about 20 minutes of angle grinding ensue. At least the sparks are beautiful to watch. So on this step here, I'm just going to make a little radius here with a grinding wheel. On concave parts, you don't want these sharp angles because they generate stress risers, and also it'll just make it look a little nicer. Not that anyone's going to see any of this because it's underneath the frame of the truck. And here's all the pieces cut out. So now the next step is transferring over hole locations, and also there's these little, like, I guess you call them rivets that hold the cross member to the 2 frame rails, and I'm marking hole locations for that. This one here is using a factory hole, and I'll show you the remedy for putting a round bolt through a rectangle there. So now it's a whole lot of drilling. You can see me using some water here. I'm just trying to keep the bit cool. I know a lot of people use cutting oil, but I don't like when that stuff off gases. Obviously the water is completely harmless when it off gases, and we're just adding to the humidity that's already terrible in Florida. So I'm actually drilling like this with a little headlamp on. Works really good. I can actually see. So this is the setup to drill out the bigger holes for the rivets on the frame, so the frame plate can lay over the rivets and go around them. The reason why this piece of wood is under there is because the hole saw will not fit through the hole that is on the bottom of the drill press table. So I have to use that wood to kind of shim it up and use a sacrificial piece so that I can drill all the way through the plate with the hole saw. And then these chips are absolutely beautiful. That's what you want to see there, those nice spiral chips flying out. And then there's a whole bunch of drilling. These ones are going to 7/16. So this one's going out to 1/2 inch because it's using a factory hole on the frame. Water to keep it cool, of course. You'll see the drill press kind of struggles here, so I'm pretty sure I have to finish this with the hand drill. And here's all the parts cut out with all the holes in them. You'll see the top one in the top corner is no, never mind. Look at this cat. He just stays around the garage while I'm working. So on this part here, I'm just grinding these parts completely flat, and also making some nice shiny parts to weld to. So we don't want to weld to the darker metal. That'll make a weak weld. This part here is the wheel I use. So it's just essentially a sanding wheel, but it's got that plastic disc behind it that keeps it more rigid and keeps it flat. So there's the shiny steel we want, and there's the gray steel that we don't want to weld to because it makes for weak welds. Also, hot tip: put a light on your welding helmet. It works great. Before you start welding, you can actually see what you're aiming at. Look at the beautiful sparks flying off these welds. Some of them actually look pretty cool. I think at the end of it, it just turns into a absolute cloud of smoke, but oh well. So now we got a round hole here for the bolt to go in, and you'll see the factory hole is a rectangle, so we need to remedy that. For that, I'm just going to cut out these squares here with the angle grinder. And of course, I'm speeding this up. This usually takes a heck of a lot longer with the angle grinder, or in real life. So there's our 3 squares. There's 3 factory holes being utilized per side. So these 3 are just for one side. They're obviously squares, so I'm just going to mark them up here, and it's going to find center. So the next step here is just to center punch. The reason why we do this is so the drill bit stays nice and centered on the part when we start drilling. And of course I use a small, medium, and large drill bit. The reason why you just don't start with the large drill bit is just because you can't physically exert enough pressure with that large drill bit to make the bit cut properly. Their final dimension is 1/2 inch. That's what size bolt we're using. So, and there's the finished backer tabs. Let me show you them on the frame so you know what they're for. So here's it on the front side of the frame, and then I'll show you it on the back side of the frame here. And my God, who's holding his camera? Oh yeah, it's me. So the next step here is kind of the worst part, not because I'm drilling holes in the frame, but because these hot shards that are coming down, raining down on me. It's not fun, but that's okay. We'll get the job done. And this drill, as you'll see in a second, is torqueier than frig. It's an M18 5.0 battery. And there's a reason why there's a handle on there, and that's why right there. And like I said, I'm a slow learner here. Take my hand off the handle there. And yeah. Yeah, should leave my hand on that handle. So in this part here, I'm actually using my M12 installation driver with a 90-degree attachment on it. But it just does not have the power. It does drill through it, but it just doesn't have the power to break this chip that's on the back of it, as you'll see. And here's why. So the M18 runs at almost 90 watts, that last number there, and the M12 is only running about 24 watts. So that's well over, or a little over 3 times the power that the M18 tool has. And as you see, this little M12 just can't break the chip, so I'm pretty sure I end up pulling it out and just switching to the M18 to finally break that chip. That's just Watt's equation, by the way. And here's a little bit more drilling. I obviously switch over to the M18 because the little M12 just can't do it. And then here's a better view of all those chips that end up on you. I think this is after like 1 hole too, so they rain down nice and hot. But as you'll see, they don't stay hot for long. I live in Florida, and it can get wet regularly. If it takes me a while to get videos out, this is why. I can't really work in the rain. And no reason to keep those drill bits cool now. They're going to be nice and cool. Alright, so now that I've got the frame plates tacked together, we can put them on the frame, and those studs, those rivets actually hold the frame plate on there for you, which is really nice. And then all I got to do is bolt them up. There's 10 bolts on the rear plate and 3 on the front plate, so 13 bolts per side. They are 1/2 inch bolts and 3/4 bolts, by the way. And then this little M12 ratchet works great for tightening the bolts down quickly. So here's there's the front frame plate, and here's the 2 rear ones, which are joined by that lower plate. So I'm using this little 3/4 ruler to space out the frame post from the body of the truck. We obviously need some space for any kind of deflection that may occur. And then I'm just welding them to the frame plates. You only see 1 tack weld here, but I do 2. You wouldn't obviously be able to do 1 because it would kind of bend over with only 1 tack weld. And then I weld the other 2 to the frame. And with that, we have the starts of some rock sliders. So you may notice there's only 3 posts on my rock slider design, whereas most companies use 4. post for their rock sliders, and that's for two reasons. One of them is for weight reduction. The second reason is I don't think the fourth member that would be kind of right here, I don't think it's necessary. And the reason why is because the three that I have on there line up with cross members that are on the frame of the truck. And if you were to add that fourth supplemental one between the first one and the middle one that I have on my truck, it wouldn't line up with a cross member there. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because any load that would go into that cross member that I don't have on mine would just go into bending the frame, and it wouldn't be distributed to two frame rails. It would be only distributed to one frame rail. Also, when fabricating, I wanted to talk about, you notice my design is completely made out of square tube. And that is because square tube is about 50% better at dealing with bending than round tube is, at only a 20% weight penalty, assuming all the dimensions are the same. So for example, 2-inch across with a quarter wall on each of these, this will be 50% stronger with only a 20% weight increase. The other thing is too, when you're building out of round tube, you have to like French things into here. So it would have to be kind of like this if you were joining another tube to it. And that's just a pain in the butt to go and notch every single tube like that. So that's why I build out of square tube. Furthermore, it's a heck of a lot easier to get a square on here and mark lines and do cuts, versus trying to do that on a round tube. It's pretty much impossible. So if you're gonna build your own sliders, I would highly recommend just building them out of square tube. And here I'm just showing a little 1/4 spacer. So what I'm doing is I'm spacing up the main slider tube from the legs. I'm doing that just for a little bit of extra ground clearance, and that way I can just level the top of these tubes out and then tack weld them on. So here, we're getting ready to start welding. The first thing I'm going to do here is clean up all around the weld areas with some wire brushes on the drill and the angle grinder. And then we're ready to start burning them in. Now you notice there's a little cat here that appears in the right lower hand corner of the screen. I try to kick this dude out all the time when I'm grinding or welding and stuff like that, and he just comes back. Watch, he just goes to sleep there. We don't have a name for him, by the way. Let me know what he should be named. So here I'm just cutting up some little squares to cap the ends of all the tubes. And don't worry about that rust. These things are never going to see the light of day again once they're welded onto the end of that tube. So we'll just tack that in and then fully burn them on. And then in the next step, this little angled piece here is designed as a kick in. So this is kicking in towards the frame. The idea with this thing is that it will kind of, if a tree gets stuck between like your tire and the end of the rock slider, this thing will help to push the tree away from the body, and won't get stuck between the tire and the slider. I know generally there's kick outs, but this one's a kick in. So in this next step here, we're looking at the bottom of the slider where the bolts bolt up to it. These bolts could be subject to getting hit by rocks. So I want to make these little tabs to shield the bolts from getting hit by rocks. And the idea with them is that when the bolts come up, it'll get scared and the bolts will jump right over the little tabs. So we'll get those burned in real quick. And well, the rock didn't jump over it, but you get the idea. And now we're ready to bolt the sliders up to the frame here, and we can test them out for the very first time. We're not going off-road yet. Don't worry, it will. These things will get abused eventually. So this part here, I'm just laying a level on it. You'll see why in a second. And then I'll lift the truck up with the farm jack here. And as you can see, the tire is completely off the ground here. And let me show you with this level, there is barely a gap. I'm about 6 inches away from the rearmost frame post, and there's that much deflection. Also, you can see here, the support tubes have only deflected up about, I don't know, 1/2 inch, and thankfully they're not touching the body. Now in this next step, I have to show you in a second, these are little support plates for what's called a Zeus fastener. And it's spelt this way right here. These little side plates are going to be for side steps. I'll have to show you the side steps in the future, but let me weld these on and then I'll show you how the Zeus fasteners work. Now in this part here, I'm adding the Zeus fastener spring to the bottom here. I actually don't have a hand-powered rivet gun. This is not a flex. I bought this electric one first because I was going to use it for something else. But anyways, there's what the wave spring look like on there with the little gussets for the Zeus plate. And then here's how the Zeus fastener works. So there's a little part that just comes out and it grabs that spring. And they're great because they're just little quarter turn fasteners. So for a side step, this will be really nice. I can have the side step on when I'm driving around in the city, and then just quick quarter turn, and I can pop of 2 fasteners, and I can pop those side steps off really quickly. I'll build those at a later date. So here I'm going to be cleaning these sliders up, getting them ready for paint. The first one is this little sanding wheel that's got a nice plastic disc that keeps the sanding wheel nice and flat. And then the second thing I do is use this wire wheel, which I affectionately call the spinning wheel of death, and it's great for cleaning up around the welds and stuff like that. And also I use these purple nylon resin impregnated discs, and that gives you that shiny finish that you see on the sliders now. And next I'm going to put these metal wires on here and twist them on. These are going to hold these sliders up so we can paint them. All right, let's get these things outside and get them painted up. So I did build 2 sliders. You just saw me build one, but I built the second one in the background. If you're wondering what they're hanging on, that is a pull-up or a dip bar, excuse me. Pull-up bars in the background. I know it doesn't look like a workout, and it's because I don't. About 3 months ago, I broke my collarbone, so I don't work out anymore. Will one day. Don't worry. So I'm hitting it with brake clean here just to get any kind of oil off of there. And the next part is to galvanize it. Also, I'm using one of these trigger things. This is great when you're doing a lot of painting, spray painting that is. But anyways, I let them sit overnight and I dust them off with compressed air and paint them. And the next step here is to wait for the paint to dry. And try not to fall on my butt too. And now we wait. So with each slider weighing 60 pounds, these sliders come in at 120 pounds added to the truck in total. I'll throw a bunch of weights on the screen from different companies. And you'll notice mine comes in at the tail end of those. I'm super happy with that. But honestly, I'm disappointed that I didn't have it under 120 pounds. I know I'm super obsessive about weight, but that is because weight adversely affects the vehicle and acceleration, cornering, braking, fuel economy, and accelerates vehicle wear. Added weight to a vehicle is just an all-around bad thing. So that is why I'm absolutely obsessive about weight on this vehicle. Also, I'm going to be building a camper, and that's going to be really heavy. So I want to save as much weight as I possibly can. But 120 pounds, I'm okay with that. So this part definitely isn't necessary for the rock slider build, but we're going to make the truck finally earn its Instagram handle name. It's oak_taco. There's not a piece of oak on this truck yet, but we're going to add a couple style points to the truck right now. So here's the original one, and here's the one you just saw me build. I'm just looking for a really organic round shape, and I think they look pretty good. So this next part here is another part that you'll see on the channel. So if you want to see what this is for, subscribe for that. All right, and that is my rock slider build. I hope you enjoyed it. As far as oak pieces go, I don't know if they really match the body color, because the main two colors I want with this truck is like black and the body color, and that little brown piece just kind of offsets it. Maybe if I got like a tinted black stain for the oak, I think it will look really good. You let me know if you like those oak pieces or not. I'm not totally sure yet. I might pop them off there. Oh, and that construction adhesive worked really good. They pretty much don't move under any little bit of load. It's got the Zeus fasteners here for when I'm building that side step. Stay tuned for that. I'll probably build one of them and mostly just have it mounted on the passenger side for when other shorter people try to get into the truck. Generally, I don't even really need to step on this to get into the truck. Other thing off here too, which I don't think I showed me filming, is there's another member in the back here that is just a piece to brace the rear. There was obviously no bending back there when you saw me check it with the high lift jack, but that's just a supplemental piece thinking forward in the build of this truck. When I convert this to a flatbed and then ultimately put a camper on here, there's going to be a lot of rear weight back there. So I kind of want that supplemental piece. And that little diagonal piece that I've added in is only like 2 pounds per side, because it's only 1/8" material instead of 3/16 and quarter like the rest of the rock sliders are. So there's a minimal weight penalty from that. So that's the rock slider build. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned. Next week, I think I'm gonna build, it's gonna be an update on the front hitch. And then after that, the truck is gonna get a wing. Not joking. And then after that, starting the flatbed build. So if you think you'd be interested in any of that, if you like this rock slider build, please consider subscribing. With that, I'm Jay. You've been watching Jay Designs. Thank you so much for watching. So let me just be totally clear about something while I'm doing this. I am properly in the middle of nowhere, but I just wanted to show a bit of a fantasy of mine. Wouldn't it be cool for me to just ride around Colorado, like on the side of a mountain pass, with somebody else driving, obviously, just like this? Hopefully that came out all right. Because who needs a convertible when you got a rock slider and a 4x4? Follow along with the build at oak_taco on Instagram.